Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American did come to America by way of ship. I'm Buck Wylam, and tonight I'm joined by the famous Darkman X TV from Darkman TV. Darkman is here with me live, and also you know her as Phoenix Moon. Phoenix Moon Rising. So they're joining me tonight, and tonight we're going to talk about what's up with the black folk. Why don't we exercise our civil rights? Why do we see everything that's happening to us and we keep doing the same things that don't work? Like I said, joining me tonight is Phoenix and Darkman, and let me introduce them right now. Phoenix, how you doing, love?
I am doing well. Halito, beloveds. How's everybody doing today?
And
Halito, fine and feathers up.
feathers up.
Yes, I
That's
made it.
right. That's
Okay,
right.
well, thank you. We're going to have a nice conversation today. And Darkman, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, let me start off with saying this first before we get into this, right? Because we have to make sure that we protect our platforms, and including yours too, brother, because we can't have them out there feeling like they can just run amok and try to interfere with your live feed. That's how they see and feel fit. So
Right.
we're gonna start off with this disclaimer, right? Again, we are not black, we are not African American, we are American Aborigines. We are not a part of any citizen movement. We are not Moors, nor are we Moorish Americans. We are once again American Aborigines. It is our universal creators given rights to tell our story, to speak on our identity as we see fit. It is within also the guidelines of UNDRIP and ADRIP, the United Declaration Rights of Indigenous People and the American Declaration Rights of Indigenous People, and it falls right within the guidelines of the United Nations on DRIP and ADRIP, and we are also within the protective rights of the Civil Rights Movement Act. If folks don't know which Civil Rights Movement Act that is the Dr. King Civil Rights Movement Act. Anyone that is caught anyone that interferes with this feed and any other feed on this platform will be held within a violation of international laws, with it, i.e., being having a class action lawsuit put up on you, whatever organization, corporation that you are part of, whether that being the CEO, the founder, the board, the chairman of the board, the boards themselves, whoever, down to even a person in the mailroom, any members of law enforcement, any members of the FBI, the CIA, the sheriff's department, the police department, U.S. Marshals, international law enforcement, whoever. Again, we are not a terroristic organization. We do not spew or preach hate speech. We are here to tell our story. And as American Aborigines, this platform is solely for the communication back and forth between Aborigines, American Aborigines, Indigenous people throughout this entire planet. And we have all rights to tell our story as we see fit. All right, we could get it there. We just had to do that right there because, if we don't say these things, and it's sad that we have to literally go and say this
Right.
1 minute rant to get the point across and to let it be known that who we are and that we are supposed to be rightfully protected by these acts, and to get these folks to back up off. But it also shows that these folks know exactly who we are and know that once these acts are put into place, that they know for a fact that they have to back up, and they do back up. You understand? And this is also what folks don't realize and understand, that also these acts does keep them in check, at bay for the most part. Right? So,
Well, cool. Well,
this is what it is. Yeah, brother.
all right. So the sister from BCFC, could you please introduce yourself, please? BCFC, the Black Conscious Fraud Committee. Oh, she's not there anymore?
No, it says she's there. Maybe she's muted. Maybe she
Yeah, I see that she's there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll let her come in. We'll let her when she's ready to come in. She'll come in and let us know she's here.
We also got the other brother that was here with me also as well.
Oh, okay. Hey, brother. Yeah, because this is a new feed. This is a brand new feed. So could he go ahead and introduce himself, please?
Yeah.
Peace, Aborigines or American Indian. Peace to you, brother, for having us on your platform. To share and spread this message amongst our Aboriginal American. And like the brother said, we got to state a disclaimer, right? To mitigate or limit some of the tampering with the life or the child. That's very important. And we're not here to solicit any Moors. We're not here to solicit any United States citizens, right? We're just here to share the message among Aborigine Americans, or AKA American Indian. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight, and I want to throw it to Phoenix because she had a question that she wanted to ask pertaining to the Civil Rights Act and how it pertains to us today. So, Phoenix, you have the floor.
Okay. I know everybody's been watching the news, and, there's an alleged incident. I know a lot of these incidents are staged, so I don't want to sound cold and dismissive to any mother that may be grieving over an actual event that I may be, conveying at this point and all, in the way that I express myself as a staged event. I don't mean to cause any controversy to any grieving mother that has lost a child to police violence. But I also want to make a mention of a lot of these events that they put in front of us that we have no proof and no way of telling if they actually happened or not. But in light of this situation with young brother Stephen Clark that was allegedly murdered with no gun out in California, the first thing that I saw was Benjamin Crump is the family representative and Al Sharpton. I have no idea what the hell is wrong with these black people and the people that they have faith in and the people that they leave to handle their business. I think it is insane to think that, you can get blood from a rock. Okay. Al Sharpton, 40, 50 years of nothingness from this man, and he's still on every single scene that there is when some tragedy happens to an American individual that he paints as a black individual who doesn't have any rights at all. While he perpetrates this fraud that looks like as if he's helpful, but he's actually, putting the nail in the coffin. Okay, and the joke ends up being on you, black people. That's why we named the show "The Joke's on You." At this point, it's important for everybody to get settled into who they are. It doesn't matter what your nationality is, who your mama is. You want to get settled into that so that you can stop oppression. However, it comes to you in your own perspective lane. The the reason why black people are still in the position that they are in right now is for the very reason that they choose to call themselves a crayon color to identify politically is beyond me. And I'm just interested in how does a civil rights attorney or a man who claims to practice to be a civil rights lawyer not utilize the Civil Rights Act for his clients? Is it because the Civil Rights Act would in fact show people that they are American Indians and kind of throw all of their black and proud, ideologies out the window? Is maybe that may be the reason why these, men are still able to perpetrate a fraud? Or is it that people are just so comfortable with the word black that they just assume some sort of good is going to come out of it? I'm really confused at that. I'm really confused at it.
Sis,
I don't think it should be anything to be confused about. I think once we really look and see where we're at, because it's one thing to talk about it, but these cats have been in those positions, Phoenix, like you were saying, for the past 50 years, and they're allowed to be in those positions. You see the havoc that Jesse Jackson ran on the community. Where is he now? He's gone. He then died and fizzled out, and now they're bringing on these new guys to fill their roles. So are we going to go back and do the same things we've been doing for the same 50 years? I hope not.
That's right. And you know what? At least I will say our people stood up to Jesse when he showed up in St. Louis for that Mike Brown incident. You know, them young brothers ran his ass out of St. Louis, and they called him out to task, and that was for all the world to see. It went to World Star, to YouTube, to local news. They showed him getting ran up out of St. Louis at that time. They didn't even want him there, and that was good that he felt uncomfortable. He hasn't really been seen too much since after that, which he should be able to. He should be ridiculed. He should duck his head in shame and hide. And now when I think back in hindsight with the Atlanta child murderers, and I still to this day think they framed that man, because every person in America had that beige carpet that they were talking about with those fibers. But anyway, and this is when Jesse Jackson was running for president in 1984. I believe it was against Walter Mondale, and for some reason Geraldine Ferraro comes to mind. But I definitely know that when he was running for president, he utilized the Atlanta child murders to capture the attention. And they also fear-mongered us. When we had very watchful neighborhoods, and even with the drugs and alcohol and things going on at the time, our community, we still policed each other. That was still when the village raised the child, and it was quite all right. It was acceptable, right? When you can send your child to the store with a note. That was in those days, but he fear-mongered us into not being able to trust each other within the community, thinking that what was happening in Atlanta was going to happen everywhere else USA where we were growing up. And he played a very integral role in doing so. And this is also how they used that man to get us away from our Aboriginal status and be able to gain momentum with applying that African American shit, which actually took a few years before they actually applied it. It had to become a buzzword and a catchword. And he applied it during, the beginning of that campaign. But the point is, who is calling these people out? No one's calling out Al Sharpton. No one is, effectively in that area taking all of these bozos down that make all these promises to people, and they show up for every tragedy with no solution. They show up empty-handed. And people should stop expecting to walk away with an empty purse. Because even when they fight for these situations, for their civil rights, for, wrongful death suits and stuff like that, you're still walking away with an empty purse. And it makes no sense. And I don't know how much longer, it just lets the society at large know, and it lets the entire world know who's ready and who's not ready to go to the next phase of, being able to be self-sustaining and self-governing. And they can look at Black people and they know automatically, and they're called Black people because they are completely dependent and they need to be told what to do. And these are going to be your class of people that are willing subjects. They're going to be willing subjects, and they're going to take whatever ass kickings they get to them because they don't know anything else, and they're not going to look forward to much else because they're just so used to, despair and dismal conditions to where, anything outside of calamity is not going to be appreciated. There might not even be any gratitude. If Black people got all of the things that they say they want, they wouldn't even be happy then. They wouldn't even know what to do. So,
do you think that word Black, using that word Black, because this is what I see when I see the word Black. You ever seen a redacted document?
Yes.
That so you see
stricken out.
You see the words are stricken out, so you can't understand the document.
Yep.
That's to me what the word Black means. and when you say it, and when we say it, especially against ourselves, we put ourselves in an even deeper hole.
Yep.
So so the word magic, the grammar that they use, and that we pick up the words that they give us, when we don't really know the definitions of those words, we just use them. But when we use them, we're using them against ourselves. Because remember, none of us are speaking our mother's tongue. So we're gonna have to, these words that we're using, and I know you're just using the word black to make a point, Phoenix, but these words that we are using, I think so. It's like if you tell your girlfriend or your wife, something that women want to hear, like, baby, I love you, whatever. Saying it like that in compared to, I love you, bitch, blah, blah, blah. It brings a different vibration to it. And
That's right.
And it's the same with the words we use. When we use these words, we don't know what they mean because they're not our words. These are words that had just been taught to us. When we use these words, trust me, it's to our own detriment. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to open up when we communicate. We're going to have to be straightforward when we talk, especially to people who don't know, because they really, that's all they know. So how do we, so like what you're saying, Phoenix, how do we get the masses? And I'll take this over to the Dark Man. How do the masses come to see what Phoenix is talking about?
Well, when they're speaking on even these terms as the term black, and the sister saying that even when our people use this term, that they're literally hitting the nail in the coffin. Look at even with the historic records, even with the birth certificates or the death certificates, how they'll cross out your title and they'll put in the title, if you want to call it a title, such as black or Negro, in on the description of who you are. It literally is redacting who you are right in front of you, even on documentation. And if our people don't realize and understand this, give me 1 second. All right. If our people don't realize and understand this to the extent of what's really going on, and we still sit here and choose to believe and listen to a lot of these gatekeepers out there, and it's a lot of them, there's thousands of them out there that insist on calling you black and making it mainstream, using by means of the music industry, the movie industry, man, the entertainment industry, magazines, even cartoons, of how they push it and brainwash us through even what we call the pro-black community or the conscious community, the Kemites, the Pan-Africans, the RBGs, even the religious foundations. They call us black, and they darn well know that that is not who we are. Because I guarantee no one has asked these folks that are the leaders, that's supposed to be the leaders of our society, what is your ancestry? Forget nationality. What is your ancestry? What is your great grandparents' ancestry? Right? Who has done the genealogy on these people to call them out on their bull? Right? Like we have so many of these folks running around in our community, and I'm pretty darn sure that their ancestors weren't calling themselves black. So why do we, or why do you let them today call you that, when we know, those who know what it means by law to call yourself black, right? Those who know what black is, when you put your arm next to the color, you don't look nothing like that. So why do you let someone disrespect you by calling you something that you don't even look like? It doesn't matter how dark of a copper tone you get. It doesn't matter how dark of a tone you get. Anytime you put any skin complexion to what we call black, it doesn't. You see the clear and obvious difference. The invaders called us blue black, right? That means that when they was calling us indio and indigo, right? If you look up what indigo means, it literally means like a dark blue type powder. Right? Then you have other folks of melanated complexion that glows like as a purple or purple like tone also to them. Then we have the deep red brothers and sisters also out there who they call the wrongfully now called red man and so on and so on and so. That when they're using that term, they're using that term to describe us, right? That copper red. That copper red. They use that to describe us. So, when you sit around and you go ahead and still call yourself black, you are calling yourself something that you are not. So if you're calling yourself something that you are not, that means you don't exist. And if you don't exist, I can't kill something that don't exist, right? So if I shoot you down dead in the street, and because of your ignorance of not doing research, right? Because it is our ignorance too, because it has to also be part of this has to be put on us, because we sit here and we let a man come and tell us 1, 2, 3, ABC, and we don't fact check them on that. We don't do it. We sit down there and we say, "Oh, the brother gave a powerful speech. That's right. That was a powerful brother right there. So, the brother can't be lying." Or we say, "Well, when I was in prison, the brother held me down." But why did the brother hold you down when you was in prison? What was his motive? Some folks just don't come and just say, "I'm going to do right by this person." What was the hidden agenda, the hidden hand? What was that hidden hand about? It is to make you feel as if I came to your rescue. I gave you an identity. Matter of fact, they gave you an identity. They didn't even say, "Hey, you know what? Go research this information and find out who you are." They didn't even say that. They subliminally brainwashed it into you. So when you came out of prison, you're all nation, NOI, FOI, Moorish Hebrews, Moorish Science Temple. You're all these things, and none of these things tell you what your great grandmother was telling you, that you are the American Indian, that you are the Aborigine, that you are the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Arawak. You understand? None of those things is what these folks. Now you see these folks now wearing feathers and feathers. How does that work? When you know the history of the Fez, when you go back to the Congos, how does that work? You saw what they did to the Congolese, huh? You know their history of running amok through Spain.
So, brother, why do you think? And let me bring in the sister from Consciousness Fraud Committee, if she's on the line. Are you there, sister?
Oh, peace to Brother Chief Holiday too as well.
Oh, yes, Chief Holiday. Who we're going to bring you in a second too, brother. Is the sister from the Black Consciousness Fraud Committee on?
Her icon is still there. I don't think she's in there.
Oh, okay. Chief Holiday, welcome. Well, you heard what the brother was just saying about, how we're confused on these words and these terms. Where all of these terms, we want to be this. Every term we read is something that somebody else just wrote. Somebody else wrote about, and we try to fit our lives around those ideologies. What do you feel about that?
Well, hey, peace, brother. Thank you for having us, Brother Kerry. And African Americans ain't African, man. Salute to y'all, man. Peace to Dark Man X. Peace to the sister Phoenix Moon. It's always a pleasure, to build with y'all, man. And Black Conscious Fraud Committee, peace to you. My thing is, and we know that these words are spells, right? On our people, on our minds and things of that nature, whatever. But they're socially taking power from us. And I think that's an important thing for us to recognize. Hold on a second, y'all.
Okay, Black Conscious. I think her call finally just fell off just now.
So what do you think about what do you think what he was saying, Phoenix?
I absolutely agree that language definitely cast a spell. It absolutely does. And you can clearly tell still by the way people converse, even after all of this information and the dialogue and the things that we present, people still drift off into their black zone again, as if that's going to bring them some sort of good fortune. It's a dead entity, and I think people need to be very conscious of not just that word. There's a plethora of words that they are going to have to remove from, their their dialogue. You know,
Phoenix, this is what I'm finding. You know, this is what I'm finding amongst the masses. So you hear about how they have, you know, animals become extinct, and in order not to become extinct, they pick up certain abilities, certain superhuman abilities. I wouldn't say they're superhuman. I think we would be vibrating them on them all the time if we were connected how we should be. How do I want to say this? I'm trying to find a way to say it.
Speak freely, brother. Speak freely.
No, I am, but I can't get it off my tongue.
Can you hear me?
Who was me?
This is Black Conscious Fry. I had mic issues. I'm sorry, y'all.
You're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to stop running in and out of my life like that.
Sorry about that, brother.
It's
But
okay.
if you were saying something, because I wanted to, you brought up like how do we affect the masses, and you know, I did want to speak on that when I get a chance.
Well, ma'am, you have the chance right now.
All right. Well, basically, yeah, I've been looking into, you know, that first of all, we have to acknowledge the fact that all of us have been indoctrinated. And pretty much what indoctrination is the fact that, you know, they took away our natural thinking ability. When we went to school, instead of them allowing us to use our critical thinking skills or use our brains the way that our ancestors used their brains, they told us what to think. Like they told us who discovered America, despite the fact that, you know, just like me, when I was in elementary school, I was raising my hand saying, well, I don't understand, how did Columbus discover America when the Indians were already here? Where like the majority of people, they were going with the flow. They were like, okay, well, this is what they said, so okay. And you know, then you get into even the spiritual aspects, you know, with religion. Religion sort of tells you, you know, gives you instructions, instead of like spirituality, where spirituality, it teaches you how to master yourself. It teaches you how to master your thought. It teaches you how to master your breathing. It teaches you how to, you know, observe nature. It teaches you a lot of different things of the mastery of self. And what they did was they took us away from our natural minds, took us away from our natural self, and took our natural thinking abilities away. Therefore, the masses we have to consider that the masses are indoctrinated. Basically, everything they say is regurgitation, or is something that someone else taught them. And not, you know, and although they may have like when I was growing up, I critically thought about a lot of different things. I critically thought about religion and how a lot of things in religion didn't make sense. You know, I critically thought, but at the same time, there were times when I just went with the flow as well. Until, you know, it was like, wait a minute, this is just too much. And so, you know, the masses of our people, even if they're saying, well, something's not right with this and something's not right with that, they have not been given enough evidence, or they have not been taught, they have not been retaught, and we have to reteach them how to think again. Now, this is one of the reasons why I like, you know, when the brother Dan Calloway, he a part of his thing is, I'm just here to make you think. You know, and that's, in a sense, that's how we're going to reach people. We're going to reach people by just simply getting them to think, because most of the truth and most of the answers and most of our reconnection to our ancestors are locked into our DNA. So once you know, like, there are certain triggers, and once you trigger things, you wake them up. So just like the same way that they indoctrinated us, they indoctrinated us through television, they indoctrinated us through radio, they indoctrinated us through the school system. And, you know, when you look at the Pan-African community, which I believe had the strongest indoctrination in terms of this whole African thing, with the Black Power and all of these catchy terms, we have to use the same techniques that they did in reverse, like the lectures, like, doing the videos, like, getting out and speaking, and actively speaking to, our people in our communities and different things like that, and telling them that there's a difference. Like, we have the access of media today, and we need to use it to the full extent, that we can, like Facebook. And, we need to reach out to places, because right now we're reaching out to us. Most of us in this chat, and most of us, and everybody on this panel knows the reason why we shouldn't call ourselves Black. And everybody on this panel knows the reason why we're not African Americans. And everybody on this panel knows that we're Aboriginal Americans, and that, we were here first, and that we have rights. But, the masses of people out there, they have been, there are even a lot of people who have been told, just let's take us back. Let's look at the little spell that Henry Louis Gates put on us. Most of y'all think y'all Indian, or you got some Indian blood in you, but you're not. You see how he used that spell, and that spell alone took people from saying that I have Indian in my blood to, like, I have no Indian in my blood, and the blood and what's in my blood is white. So, we have to backtrack and reverse the same things that they did, and to wake our people up. And, and I digress from here.
Yeah, man, that was fire.
Yeah, brother,
Hey, yeah, peace to all American Aborigines, man.
peace.
Peace to chat room, man.
Peace,
I know they
feather
going
up.
in right now.
Yeah,
man.
Feathers up.
Feathers up.
Alito.
Vibe up.
yeah. I just want to add on what Sister Phoenix said, and Black Conscious Fraud Community, right? So you gotta understand that some of these organizations, right, they play in people psyche, meaning if they know that people don't like to pay tax, for example, the Moorish Science Temple, which is a religious temple or religious organization, right, which made them tax exempt, and all of this stuff you can find in Google, right? They go to people with the catchphrase or the term, yo, Moors don't pay tax, right? Because they're playing on your psyche. You understand? Because when people hear that, oh, you ain't got to pay no tax, they didn't go to quick and join your organization without doing any research, and that's where the brainwashing start, right? And some of these people are suffering from
the vulnerability. They play off of the vulnerability of people.
the ignorance of the people, And
Same thing with
That's how they got grandmas. That's how they got our grandmas.
and the same thing with the brother you were just, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, with the brother Al Sharpton. That's what he's doing right now. He knows that people are desperate, and he's acting on people's he's acting in a time, he knows when to act. And he also, and let me tell you also what he's doing. When he gets out here and does this, he's getting a check for distracting or diverting our people.
Facts.
Absolutely.
Let's show people how these people or these organizations outsmart them, right? The truth is what they're not telling them, that everything in this world is voluntary, right? And everything in commerce is fictitious. You understand? Everything, let me repeat that again. Everything in commerce is fictitious. Everything in the world or in this earth is voluntary. You understand? They give you a choice. You choose, right?
Free will. The Bible calls it free will.
Free will, but
it's of your choice to be a slave or not.
Yeah, but most of these people are suffering from what you call cognitive dissonance. You understand? They can't see that what they're doing is not working. You understand? It's like they're in a paradoxical state of mind. You know what I mean?
Explain.
I'm sorry.
Explain how do they don't see that it's not working?
Okay, so like I said, they're what you call bandwagonists, right? So they're so oppressed, right? And they're tired of their situation, right? And they see other people that's melanated like them, right? Start a campaign, and they're protesting, and they have little flyers and t-shirts, right? And they want their voice to be heard too, thinking that they're going to get some kind of justification or solution to their problems, right? Not knowing that they're actually putting themselves in a deeper situation, right? Where their situation will never be solved, all right?
I'm listening.
It's almost as if
Yeah.
they are
So
just expecting not to ever catch a break. Like they're just
Exactly.
expecting
Exactly.
the worst to happen.
Okay,
Yeah.
because okay, but this is what I mean. The words and stuff that we say, we use them against ourselves because the
it's not
people.
just the words. It's not just the words.
No, I mean, let me finish. What we're doing, we see that everybody sees the problem. The brother was just telling that story. I talk to guys who want to go to jail or retirement. That's what they're looking forward to because they realize that they've worked this system, they built this system up, and now that the system is where it doesn't need them no more. Everybody is starting to see that, and they're now asking, what do we do? I mean, we may not be in those circles. We may not work at the post office. We may not be a city worker where the city ain't got no goddamn money. It's broke. Watch these stocks more. Watch these stocks and it's over, man. So as a group of people, indigenous, because everybody's not, because some people are in it. They'll tell you, I'm in it till the end. I'm gonna ride this till the wheels fall off. So being that it's crumbling, being that we have a nation full of immigrants surrounding us, and all that European, we have to make this simple. That whole other side of the hemisphere is Africa, Europe, and Asia. They're all over here in our ass. What are we gonna do?
Okay. So
I hear the law stuff, and
so
these
Yeah.
people and these.
so this is what we do, right? The first step we take, right, is to correct our status on paper. That's the first thing, all right? That's the first thing. You correct your status. Stop calling yourself African American. Stop calling yourself Black, right? Stop calling yourself Moorish American or Moors, right? Stop wearing a fez. You understand? Wear some kind of indigenous attire, whether it's your feathers or your headband or something that identify you as being indigenous to the Americas. Right. Most importantly, you got to change your status on paper. You understand? What do you identify as? Who do you identify as? All right. And also
That's why even little
find
things like
preambles. Find preambles.
little things like you can cite with your, like especially with the children in the schools, you want to, and anybody that has children in elementary schools, these junior high schools and these high schools, you better fill that blue card out correctly. You can change it at any time. You know, if you didn't want the child's father to pick the baby up from school, you go get a new blue card and make sure you scratch him off so he can't even pick his child up from school. I've seen women do that. You can certainly go there and get a new card or have your child bring a new blue card home and send it back. And with that information, you make sure you correct that baby's status. You can start small with things that don't even cost any money. You know, I don't care if you get pulled over for a ticket. Let your only statement be that you're an American Indian. It's documented. They need to see who you are. So when they don't do their due diligence as to who you are and they treat you like you're somebody else, this is how you line them up and you get your redress of grievances. So you don't walk away just being violated and they go home, you know, and do it again the next day. We got to not be afraid to set the precedent to start dragging some of these oppressors through it. And once you spank their boots, now it's going to show other people how to treat us. Because like the brother said, everything that is voluntary.
Right.
And if you're signing up for it, you know, and calling yourself Black, you should already know what to expect. And that's going to be very little return on your interest.
Because, you know, peep this, right? Coming on this journey, what I also realize is that a lot of us admit that our great grandparents and our grandparents and our mothers and fathers told us that we're Indians.
Yes.
So how we even went against each other is like y'all said, even with the documentations that we fill out, we see the box African American, Hispanic, European or Caucasian, right? And we know that none of these are us. but yet still we click that African American box sometimes. And we know for a fact that our family, our people told us that we are Indians. But yet still we click off on that African American box, still doing it to ourselves. You understand? So this is also what we mean by it's voluntary as well, because you voluntarily check that box. No one forced you to check it. You understand? And again, though, this is why we also have to put it like some of us didn't know that we could cross out that line, that African American, and put American Indian.
Not only sorry to cut you, brother. Right? But if you know the law, right, real good, right, you can tell them, listen, this paper or this documentation you're giving me is genocidal, right? It forced me into assimilation, forced me to identify as something that I'm not. Can you please provide me a new application form, right? And if they refuse to do so, you can sue them.
Plain and simple.
That's right.
And forgive me if I'm gung ho, but I looked at the way that only 2 people agreed to call us African American, and it was just as simple as done. Nobody voted on it. No, like none of us voted on it. We just woke up one day and we were told to call ourselves African American. And likewise, I look at the same thing in terms of changing it to Aboriginal American, because at the end of the day, in order to be protected under the ADRIP or the UNDRIP, is self-identifying. And, and it's just as simple as, how you're identified. So, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about a group of people getting strong enough, it's strong enough. Well, I think we're strong enough already to take claims. If we have to go through, get media coverage and go, and get people who are supposed to put pressure on people who are supposed to represent us, like the Black Caucus, the so-called Black Caucus or whatever, to, take it to, take it the same way that they changed us to African American, like the same way that they can change us, to Aboriginal American. I think that, we need to think a little bit bigger and, just take it to them and just say, look, we're not, first of all, we're not African, and we don't want, everybody doesn't agree to the term African, and we want to be considered as Aboriginal Americans because we have that right.
So first, let's dig into Black Caucus, right? What is a Black Caucus? Like even both terms, both words literally still means death. A caucus is a corpse. That's what we call a corpse, a dead thing. Black by law does not exist.
Have you seen Maxine Waters lately?
Nah.
Well, not in terms of the fact that, not in terms of, I understand that, I even understand that, these people are not 100% on our side, but I'm just looking at putting enough pressure on whoever it is, just the same way that they changed us to African American, right. Putting pressure on these same powers that be, or whomever it might, powers that doesn't be, or powers that ain't be, and getting them to, because we have a right to self-identification. So I'm looking at, let's find out who it is that we need to go to and tell them that, we do not want to be African American. We want to be Aboriginal. We want our status to be changed to Aboriginal American. I don't think that's the way
to, so if you're self-identifying, why do you have to go tell somebody who you are? They know who you are. They know who you are. They know.
The self-identifying is for you, not for them.
Right. Well, not so much as just the same way that they all of a sudden we woke up and we were told to classify as African American, and it worked in a large scale. I mean, it will work on a large scale as well, like with Aboriginal American. The same way that they did that, the same way we could get Aboriginal American put in place, and then once that's in place, it's in place. We're identified.
They already know. They already know who we are. We could go 10 million deep in front of them and say we're Aboriginal Americans. It's not good. They still already know. We have to. It's not convincing them. It's making sure that our people know who they are. See, this fight is not about letting these folks know who we are. They know who we are. We don't know who we are, and because we don't know who we are, they play on that ignorance. That's what they do. You see what I'm saying?
So we got to educate the masses, like and that's, before, even beforehand, we got to educate, the masses into, the fact that, okay, you're not African American. We got to educate the masses to the fact that the word black is killing you. We have to educate the masses to the fact that, that what you identify as matters. We have to educate the masses about the UNDRIP and the ADRIP and the Civil Rights Act. We have to educate them that there are no laws that protect them under the terms of Black and African American. Someone has to do it, or else, they're
I
gonna
mean,
stay ignorant, and they are and numbers do count.
All right, Pete, look at this, right? We all have platforms, and we all have those within our community that have platforms that reach millions of folks. So we know even Dane Calloway's platform, it reached millions, right? So all of us, since we want to educate the masses, all of us with these platforms, all of us come together with our platform and bring together some form of resource where we can create our own media platform, independent from the YouTubes, from the Vivo, from all of this mainstream on corporate construct owned entities, and we tell all our subscribers, look, this is what we've created. Let's log on to this right here. One subscriber pulls in another subscriber, pulls in another subscriber. We could do it that way. We could each get our own servers, right? Which isn't difficult also as well, and run our platforms on an independent system away from the corporate construct system to where they can keep consistently hack our stuff, even though
I agree.
doing it.
I agree.
I have an idea, right? A much more simpler idea, because you got to remember everything that in this era it takes what you call money, right? And I have a much simpler method, right? And I want you to listen to me carefully, right? And I got this method from reading a small article about anthropology and anthropologists. What they do, they study human behavior. And it's really simple. We got to study our people behavior. So this is what you do. All those who have Facebook, Instagram, or be on YouTube, what you do, you change or add, right, the term American Aborigine to your username, right? And one person on your page is going to see that, right, and say, oh, you're Aborigine, American Aborigine. What's that? Right there, you're planting a seed. You're planting a virus. It's anthropology, right? You got to understand our people immolates. You understand? So once you do that, right, the message is going to spread. You understand? And then they're going to share our channel for more information or more enlightenment. You understand? And then you can take it the next step further from there. That, listen, we as a people, we got to have our own platform, right? Because the people are willing to help us if we mean them, which we do mean them, right, and positivity, right? They will help us. You understand? But because they are being burned and scarred so many times by different scammers out there, right? I'm not going to specify right now, but many different scammers out there who are misidentifying them as something as they're not, right?
Nigerians acting like American Aborigines.
Nigerians acting like American Aborigines, right? So they're a little bit cautious. But like changing something simple as like changing or adding Aborigine or American Aborigine to your username on Facebook or YouTube or whatever social platform you're on, right? Yo, that's right. There's a start.
True.
I agree.
Yeah, right there's a start. It's a big change.
And I also share all the videos. Like, I've already shared this video every time I go on a play. If it's now sometimes I don't share videos, and that's if like if it's because I already look at the mentality of the people that I'm sharing it to, and so like I try to share all the things where I think that it'll make them think and and not run.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. But I share everybody's live stream that I go on, and I agree, like, more people with channels. I mean, if it's nothing but putting pictures of Aboriginal Americans or Choctaw, just like the same way a lot of us got inspired. If it's nothing but putting the pictures out there, or African Americans are not African, and like we already got clothing, we got like t-shirts and different things like that already set up and coming. So basically it's like just working the avenues that we have right now, I think that, we'll do good.
Let me ask you all a question. This is for everybody, and each of you, and Chief Holiday, you can we'll hear from you first because we haven't heard from you yet. With all of the different groups that we're broken down into, the Afrocentric group, the Moorish groups, the Hebrew groups, the Christian groups, the Greek groups, the football lovers group, the baseball lover group, the basketball lovers group, all these different groups that we have broken ourselves down into. What do you think would happen if we were all on the same page? Chief Holiday?
Hey man, please, well, I'll say this, that I look at everybody that you just named, all of those groups, especially their mama and their grandmamas and everybody was born here in America. All those people are Aborigines that are just haven't been awakened to that fact yet. So what we have to do, I was thinking about this, right? Because I don't believe in religion and stuff, right? But if a pastor that had a mega church was teaching the Aborigines in his congregation, even if they believe in Jesus, now keep this in mind, if you're Aborigine, it's hard for you to believe in all these mystical things that was brought to you because you know how long you've been here on this land and you were here longer than that thing. So that's the importance of knowing who you are, to tie yourself just to reality first off, because at this point right now, watching what Professor James Smalls did the other night, I mean, I'm embarrassed for them. You know what I'm saying? And just we're talking about words and word spells, right? And they're talking to people in this double speech at the same time. We're saying, here's the word. Yes, this is what it is, but they don't know what it is. And yeah, we're still Africans. See how that work?
Yeah.
So not ever saying, well, here's the etymology of African, and it has nothing to do with being the original man. Aborigine has something to do with being the first people. It has nothing to do with a race of people, because it's Aborigine Africans, it's Aborigine Chinese people, it's Aborigine Europeans, it's Aborigine Australians. And guess what? All of these people are us. We are the Aboriginal people of this land. We're just, because of social political pressures and everything that these people have applied to us, we have to say we're Americans. We are the copper color races of people that they found here. They can change all this stuff up because when they came here, they wasn't speaking English. So the red man meant something else. It meant the maroon man, the root man, the first people that was here, that they still legally are called the Americans. So we have to be careful when the words that we're using, even as Aborigines, when we're speaking of our Aborigines, because sometimes we might get it confused. I'll give you a perfect example. The other night, I called the Sinettas, right? And the first question he asked me was, am I native? I said, no, brother. You know what I'm saying? Technically I am, but I said no, because I don't want him to put us in a box and say, oh, we were just born here in America. So I educated him and his audience on what a native was and what an Aborigine is.
Right.
See how that worked? It's 1,500 people watching. So I'm banging them out. And he was coming with the little curveballs or whatever, but I'm Babe Ruth in this motherfucker. Y'all follow me?
Right. That's right.
So I was knocking him out the park. That's why he had to cut it out. So, right. Hey, man, cut all that out, man. You know, y'all can't stop this truth. Right. And then they'll tell you, man, fuck what my grandmama told me. Because I tell them, go back and ask their grandma. They'll come back and say, yeah, my grandma said we was Blackfoot. But fuck my grandmama. She don't have no education.
Right.
I'm telling you, they'll show a picture of their Cherokee grandmother. They'll show a picture of their Choctaw grandmother and call her Choctaw and say she African in the next breath. This one dude dragged his grandmother to Kemet. And I called him a grandma killer. And he said, who killed your grandmother? I said, nigga, you did, and you killed yours too. And you show me that map of Kemet and show me where the Cherokees come from over there. Yep. Show me where your Cherokee grandma came from in Kemet.
Exactly. And again, this is where I say, this is where now the Caucasian influence come into play, because they play on our ignorance. And I need y'all to bear with me here. Who let the Caucasian within our inner cities and our communities, right? Folks that look like us. And because folks that look like us let them within our community, and we didn't check the folks that look like us, right? Because we started ignoring the history that was passed down to us. And learning what I'm learning and still continue to learn today, I'm learning that there's a lot of us out there that actually knows our history, and we just keep a closed mouth. And a closed mouth don't get fed, or we ignore the facts that was passed down through oral presentation to us, and we go with the next thing that the next man told us. So we let Tom, Dick, and Harry come in our community because they look like us, but we didn't check them to see exactly what were their motives or their agenda. And we let them set up shop within our community. And what the Caucasian did was just played on that ignorance, and they capitalized on it. You understand? So when we say the white man this and the white man that, and our community ain't going nowhere because of the white man, who came in your community before the white man came in your community? If we want to use that, call them white in those terms, right? Who came in your community before they did? Who came and learned the layout of your community? Who came and learned your personality? Who came and learned your likes and your dislikes, or your mental makeup to invade you mentally first before they could invade you physically? Who came and learned all these things? Then the Caucasian came in and capitalized on it, right? So when you have folks saying, well, you know, if their grandmother's this or that, or you have folks still looking at their full-blooded Cherokee grandmother and still calling her a Kemite, that's the work of the brainwashing movement that happened for those who we let in our community without checking them. And we see a lot of what we see now today, a lot of disarray, a lot of disorder, right? And in order for us to be at the forefront of where we once were with our ancestors before all of this started happening, we're going to have to start checking these fools within our community hard body. We're going to have to start doing that. We're going to have to start checking these folks that darn well know that their documentation states them as a religious organization or a religious corporation and trying to pass it off as a nationality, right? We ain't going by nationality. We're going by ancestry. So when they say, what's your nationality? You say, what's your ancestry, right? We're going to have to start checking them. We're going to have to start seeing their documentations, their paperwork. Stop letting them tell you certain things because it sounds good. The actions speak louder than words. All these organizations a couple years back was against the Caucasian. When you go into all their organizations now, you see Caucasian faces are part of their organization. They are assimilating you like the Borg, and we don't know it because they throw so many distractions at you. False flag shooting here, false flag shooting there, a supposed terroristic bombing there. Oh, look what happened to Kanye. He dyed his hair pink. Oh, you know, what's the little gay rapper that they got running around, 6ix9ine? Like, y'all don't know what that six. He never had a 6ix9ine a couple years back because he was walking around with a Crip flag. You have to start seeing and spot Illuminati type agendas because 3 6s 9, 3 6s. Do you understand? He didn't have that big ass 6ix9ine on his stomach before and all of that. The rainbow colored hair, like Lil Yachty have the rainbow colored on fronts. They're also pushing, when you see that rainbow color now, everyone associates it with homosexuality. So they're showing you also the homosexual influence within these organizations as well. And again, who's more influential to the hip hop industry or to this, to the hip hop industry more than our young children when they see stuff like that. So what they're doing is they're assimilating the youth. This is why the music is getting more and more retarded, the more and more, and you have grown folks about, oh yeah, that's hot. It's not hot. It's before.
Yo.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I gotta kind of agree with you, but from a guy that maybe a little older, you know what I'm saying? We have to embrace. We have to embrace the youth, and instead of saying, man, that's messed up, show them the right way to do it and guide them in the right way or whatever, right? Now I say this, you know, as far as 6ix9ine, I don't know him personally, so I can't speak on him personally, whatever, right? So I'm saying he's doing anything he could do to gain attention to himself or whatever, and he has other brothers behind him, guiding him, teaching him certain things, or whatever. Right?
6ix9ine is not our people. That's a full-blooded Caucasian Mexican kid. Right?
Yeah, that's a straight Caucasian.
Wait. Okay, well, see, that's another thing we might not agree on either. Because I gotta say this, right? Because if we have a person that in your family, or my family, anybody's family that's on this call, that's mixed with white people, right? That's still our family.
He's not mixed.
We don't distinguish. Huh?
He's not mixed.
At some level, he's mixed. At some level, he's mixed with us, the Aborigines of this land. So we
No,
can't take that away from any Mexicans. There's only borders in our minds that we created from them. We are the Aboriginal people of this
not
land.
genetically.
Everybody from us, I want them all. We want all off.
Mixed. He's not mixed. He's pure. He's straight.
Yeah, I would agree. He's a pilgrim,
Yeah.
and he's backed by a bunch of Aborigines. Right?
Hey, well, listen though. That's another thing.
He can't walk through the hood, and I'm not saying I'm not saying that to say like I don't have the pilgrims in my family that I love, because I'm not changing, and I ain't trading them. I'm gonna tell you that.
I got biracials in my family.
I'm gonna keep it that real.
Yeah,
But what I am saying is, this young brother, this 6'9" dude, he is a pawn, and it's a shame because he's only 23 years old, and they got this man walking around with this rainbow hair, his body and face all tattooed up, and it makes it hard for his mama to look him in the face with all the stuff he got on his face. Okay, so but at the same time, he's still a baby. I watched him on the Breakfast Club. That boy is ignorant. He done gave every address where anybody that wants to harm him can find him. Now, I don't know if he did that to, boost his, bravado or machismo or whatever, but the brother asking to get his ass killed. And he won't play around in the street. That's what happens to people that play the games he play. I don't really know all that he's into, but I could tell with that interview, that boy is in peril. And I don't really see him lasting too long. Okay, whether it's in the music business or life-wise, especially if he is out here banging in the streets with these folks, I feel sorry for him because he is still somebody's baby, whether he won ours or not. He's only 23 years old, and he's heavily submerged into this lifestyle and this culture, and I don't expect him to be around 10, 20 years from now. I don't expect any of his music to be legendary or anything like that, but he is somebody baby. I will say that.
Hey, let me ask y'all a question. Would y'all check in if you on tour, you go to different cities or whatever, or anything? Do y'all not really check in? Do y'all check in with the natives in the town? Y'all think that's respectful?
Yeah, I did.
I do. I think it's respectful.
And guess what? They some of them know, and some of them welcome you.
Say that again, brother.
Some of them know, and some of them welcome you.
That's right.
You said some
I know
some of them don't welcome you.
Some of them know who you are, and some of them welcome you to the reservation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, though. But some of these guys are only worried about the pilgrims in those towns and not worried about the real natives in that city. So it's a good look to teach them that lesson, to pay homage to everybody every time you go through. You can't be going through Houston and say, "Oh, I'm about to go do a show. I'm about to go do all this or whatever," and I'm not gonna even make the proper calls or whatever to Jay Prince. Or come out to LA. And
you're right about that.
I see.
That's not gonna happen. Or Chicago.
I see what you're saying.
But you're gonna get robbed.
The music industry and ancestry, I can't put the two together to say, well, if I'm a musician and I'm going to go on tour in a city, I got to call up a certain person to show them some respect. But no, for what? They didn't build me up in the music industry. They didn't bring me along. Why should I go and say, hey, I'm coming in this city? It's not your city.
No. Think of it from this respect. Think of this perspective, brother. You're somebody coming to somebody else's town, right? So it's a lot of hungry guys in that town, right? In everybody's town, we got hungry niggas, right? So you can't come to somebody's town and be doing all these other things, maneuvering through the town, and then disrespecting the town. That's how they're gonna look at it. So then if something happens to you at the club or at the mall, or Aborigines are getting hurt, so it's just phone calls. It's not like, oh, you got to tap in and pay somebody. Now some of these niggas got to pay.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's different. If you got to pay, that's on you. You weak. I'm sorry. I don't. That's on you. You know what I'm saying? Tap in with me. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't deal in weak talk. You see what I'm saying? And all that's weak. We shouldn't be talking about that in the public. You know what I'm saying? Whoever his OGs is need OGs to teach them the real. This is messy. It's hurting y'all money. You can see that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and let's make this thing, you know, because nothing good is going to come out of the conversation at the end of the day. Nothing's good going to happen because these people ain't just hooked up in Houston. You see what I'm saying? People is hooked up in Houston to LA to New York to Chicago, blah, 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 blah. So we run the streets. So let's use that energy and put it into the right direction. And that's what I'm saying. And I heard Poppy say that, heard Hassan Campbell say that, whatever, you know what I'm saying? He was talking about why don't they get those 100 men and make different things happen in their city. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that.
Chief.
That's how you make moves.
Chief. But you gotta remember with your proper status, you can't make no move unless you're in the correct status. You understand? And you got to remember that if you're going to speak to people on a large scale, right, or a mass, right, masses of people, right, some of these people are going to be of different organizations, right? So you got to be prepared for people willing to bring you down, you know, or try to infiltrate whatever you're trying to do. You got to be prepared. You got to be in your right status. You understand? It's not that simple.
Again, you know, I get what everyone is saying, you know, and we all have a common ground, and we all want to see our history told the right way and correctly. But when it comes to, you know, folks that are not American Aborigines having also a strong influence on our children, that's where also the line got to be drawn. And I ain't got no sympathy for them, to be honest with you. And, you know, I don't care whose child he also is. At the end of the day, you know, his ancestors colonized my ancestor, and they have that family history of they all know that, well, majority of them pretty much know who we are, and they know what it is that they do. And we know that even with the Masonic influence, everything around here is within a strong Masonic influence. So what we think isn't organized is really Masonically organized. Come on now, you think real, and I'm from New York. You think a dude like that running around talking about he's the king of New York, if the real OGs in New York had seen that, it would have been a wrap for him. It doesn't matter what so-called blood OG he think he got running with him, guarding him, or whatever, because
that's right.
New York knows the Bronx and Brooklyn get busy. They get down, man. Harlem and the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, they get down. And you know, so at the end of the day, everybody got a major OG. So don't think it's not orchestrated. A lot of this shit is fake, and a lot of these dudes, went into the penitentiary and got owned by the folks that brought them in there and came out with deals and so and still running around playing the tough guy role. I don't know what tough guy run around with a camera every day and try to show fights and all that stuff, bringing all that negative attention to them. It's an act. All this stuff is just one big movie being played out in front of the people to draw the attention of our young people to glorify back the age of the gang era, because the Crips and Blood, Latin King, Nieta, Zulu Nations, all these things was going dead. So they got to glorify. So you got old ass rappers like The Game coming out to about F69 and all that stuff. And it's influencing the youth of the American Aborigines to say, oh, you see what's going on? Oh, 6ix9ine, oh, Extension, oh, and all that. Because they playing on the ignorance, not only of the parents of the children, because the parents don't know who they are, because they fell for the Moorish Hebrews, the Moorish Science Temple, the NOI, the FOI, all these organizations, batship organizations within our community. So now they're ignorant. Our children is watching these things. So you got mother, father, and son listening and watching the same foolishness, because they probably damn near almost the same age. Because what our youth also has been influenced by this mainstream media industry, which pushes a lot of sexuality. So now our folks are very sexually active, more so now at a younger age than anything else, pushing out babies at a younger age than anything else. So mommy would be like probably 13 years older than the child, right? And then the child and the mother still grown up listening to the same style of music or whatever, watching the same ignorant stuff in this day of time. We ain't talking about going back in the 90s and stuff. Certain things is a little different from how it is now. It got a lot looser now in today's society. So when you see a lot of this stuff, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. And look at the folks who are really running around acting a fool if they're not. And again, this is why I still agree with Irritated Genie to the most part. They use the ignorance and the loss of the biracial child, because the biracial child don't know what to identify as, and they play on their ignorance too. And then you look, you see them showing the little Hindu boy, or again with 6ix9ine, the little Mexican boy. Well, you know what? He ain't even Mexican neither, but we ain't gonna go there right now. But they use those faces, and our youth, our American Aborigines youth, are looking at those faces as faces to look up to. This is all just one orchestrated Masonic, Shriners, whatever they want to call their goddamn self, on movement. And you know what? Some of the brothers and sisters that join these organizations, they join it because they thought they can make a change within our communities. And when they got in too deep, they realized, oh shit, I'm in deep waters with all these piranhas, alligators, crocodiles, you name it, these sharks, and I can't get out. And this is what's going on.
But brother, this has been going, that has been going on since, that's been going on since the days of Frederick Douglass. So, you know, and at that time, they weren't in the situation that we're in now. See, the situation in now, we're on the verge of seriously being exterminated. And with all of the examples you just gave, is proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go into some more. There's some other ways that they're doing it.
Exactly.
How do we stave that off?
All right. Go ahead.
You got everything in this system is voluntary. So, you know, like I said, people emulate. You understand? You got to dress a particular way, pass on the message, sow seeds, you know, as you go along. Everything in the system is voluntary. You know, you got to let people know that.
Like the blueprint is in front of us. I know places in New York City where you see warehouses in communities, and you think that they're just regular warehouses, and them Jews have those warehouses teaching their children privately on our history, on who we are, and on how to come up in this society of dominating us in this financial market. They teach them privately. It's not even a registered school. No one even knows that these places exist until folks started making complaints on them because they was taking up a lot of space in the streets. So again, right now, we have to start doing stuff like that. We have to start teaching our children privately. All right, some of us can't take our children fully out of these public school systems, but goddamn it, we have weekends, you have days off from work. We have to make that sacrifice. Even if you're working 3 jobs and you're tired, take 15 minutes to half an hour to teach your child something about Aborigines, and make sure that it's some key point thing where it's going to stick to them when they go to school and the teacher try to tell them some bullshit. They can be like, but wait, that doesn't sound right. But wait, but why does these documents right here say so and so different from what the textbook is saying? You understand? We have to start teaching them these things. And the difference between even the days of Frederick Douglass and now is mainstream media. Like a person could make a YouTube video and it reach 20, 26, 36, 40, 50 million people in one day. So mainstream media is also a big influence. Why we can't create our own media platforms? It takes $200,000 to build a satellite. Did y'all know that? It don't take millions of dollars to launch a satellite up in the atmosphere. It takes $200,000. We pump more than that a year, especially on a holiday, what they call a holiday. We spend even sometimes $500 million during Christmas alone. That bullshit ass Black Panther movie made millions. It takes $200,000 to put a satellite up into orbit. If we really want to take control of our own stuff. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to take these things. It's going to take us organizing on a forefront. It's going to take us having to wholeheartedly weave out all these infiltrators from out of our community. And until that is done, and we can't have no form of remorse when we are doing it. Because the ones who are still doing it, they don't have no remorse for misleading our people, and they show themselves. We're talking about the ones that you see still fighting to, damn, but is this, but what is this, but what am I? The confused ones, you can tell who they are. They generally sit down and want to learn both sides of the coin so that they know truth, because the brainwashing has been that deep within our community. But you have those that very damn well know who we are and still go out there every single day and preach bullshit, but tell you also, well, I ain't African, but then still try to push your ass up into Asia, Saudi Arabia, and then say, well, some of those lands were once fertilized. What the hell does that mean? That still don't take away the fact that the Americans have the most rainforests in the world. It don't take away from that. It don't take away from the fact that no matter how they slice it and dice it, over there have the most deserts in the world. Dry land. It's a development project over there. So we have these folks who are in high prestige positions. Look at your congressman, your senator, your boule-ass mayor. They selling us out every day. Your so-called leaders of these Pan-African movements. You think they don't know this? Omar told y'all he got 700,000 in the bank and still ain't give you a goddamn school. Right? And still folks still support him. Yeah. I see Muta Baruka had him on his show, or had him in Jamaica, and it blew my mind. Like, and they can't say they don't know all of this surrounding the man. I don't even call him my brother, surrounding the man. You understand? And people still invite him to go do shows, seeing all that proof and evidence in their faces.
Right.
Yeah.
Because how do these guys, because that's what I've always wondered, how are these guys sponsored? Who brings these guys to Atlanta? Who brings these guys to New Orleans? How does that happen? Who's doing that?
That's that monthly due. They pull in that money from the people. That money goes to the lodges and the elks, their badgers, with all these Shriners. They go to all their lodges. They pay their monthly dues. It covers their travel. Then when they go to one place and they meet another brother from the same organization as them, that brother took that oath, so he's also supposed to look out for his brother. This is how they do it. Right? And then majority of the money that they get from our people, they put it in their bank accounts, and then they put it to the elite class. So when they're ready now to make a major move, they do what is called tapping the bank. And when they tap bank, there's no turning back from them. Tapping the bank is like what Jay-Z and them did when they want to go out there and invest hundreds of millions in some form of business and stuff. This is when now you're going to see your Caucasian faces come out, because they started tapping bank. And who owns the banks? The Rothschilds, right? This is when now the playing field goes up another level. So everyone in these organizations know they role and have their role to play, even if it's the doorman or that furniture in the corner that collects the dust and you got to dust it off sometimes. That furniture still plays its role. Sometimes it got to get dust off to be sat on. So this is how they move around. This is how they maneuver. This is how they get stuff done, and they're very organized. It's just that our people just can't see it, and they do it right in our face, right in our face. For some reason, they tell you what they're going to do before they even do it.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
We got to stop taking what we think is fairy tale for not being fairy tale like some of these movies and cartoons. They're telling you real shit about what they plan to do to you 10, 20, 30 years from now. They tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phoenix, you still there?
And the thing
Yes,
too,
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. What do you think about what the brothers are saying? The sister who was answering from the Black Conscious Fraud Committee, you had something to say?
Yeah, and I was like, the thing too, that a lot of our people that have prescribed to the boule does not, or secret societies do not understand is the ones that are lower level, they have no more power than you and I. The ones that are upper level, they, it's like it just depends on, like their performance in terms of whether they'll survive or not. So they're not safe either. Just because they're up there or just because they're enjoying benefits does not mean that they're safe, because at any given time that they get ready to rid them, just like Michael Jackson, just like Prince, just like Red Fox, just like JD Dupree or whatever his name is from Atlanta, like just like Bill Cosby, whenever they get ready to rid them, or whenever they feel like, they're too much on their people's side, they get rid of them too. So the thing that we have to do is we have to provide a safety net. We have to provide a safety net for people, for our people as well, for our people. And what that basically is, it's numbers and it's exposure. See, the last thing that they want, that the last thing that can happen is this. Just like, okay, let me put it this way. Let me simplify it. Silence is acquiescing. I can't get the word out, but silence is acquiescing. And basically, the one of the biggest ways that they're getting us right now is because in a lot of ways we're silent. And if we're not silent, if we when we do stand up, they found ways to distract us. They'll find ways to distract us. They'll find this one leader to come in with this mighty speech, and everybody gets behind that person. And that person, just like Black Lives Matter, just like Jedediah Brown, just like Al Sharpton, just like Jesse Jackson, just like, like originally the Black Panther Party, they said it was good, but but the Black Panther Party, especially the new Black Panther Party, they find, or they find ways to distract us, where we think that we're standing up and we think that we're speaking out, but like a lot of people are not realizing that we're not getting anywhere. And so people are subscribing to, just like a lot of people subscribe to this channel on YouTube right now, and give a lot of their money on this channel to this Van and Gators and things of that nature, simply because they give a good speech. They give a good speech and make people feel like they're doing something. And the thing about it is, there's nobody else out there that has anything going. And then if someone were to come along that had something going and they were showing and proving, then these people would leave that network or those people alone in a heartbeat. So, like basically we have to step up, we have to organize, and we have to start, like, the same different systems that they're using on us. We have to reverse it. They're using media, like underground music. We could, until we get our network. I agree 100%. We need a network. We need our own network. But even until, for people who produce music, produce some music with Aboriginal high frequency tones that are speaking some truths, that are waking people up. We could do underground movies. What do they call those movies that don't hit the mainstream, that are sold underground? Like what's his name? Too Short. When he first came out, he sold stuff out his trunk. Like what's her name right now? Kaya. She's basically doing the same thing, and her stuff is in all of the like little clubs and stuff around towns and stuff. She's just not on radio and in mainstream. So, like we could work, there are several different methods that we could work through, and people can use their talents. We can use our talents individually, or use our talents collectively to basically to deprogram people. Just like I said, visualization, t-shirts, we them real Indians, things of that nature, with copper tone people on them, like things that make people think, like think. And the more that people think, the more that people are questioning, the more that people start conversating, just like we're doing now. We're actually doing it now. We're actually doing it now, because a lot of us,
Right.
we go over there and we bang in the Van and the Gator network. We bang over there, and a lot of us are the reason. The people in the chat are a lot of the reasons why a lot of them people have to come to the table with a new live stream. Why Professor Large Small Brain had to come on there many times, because we were banging in that chat. And we were addressing stuff in that chat. And the more we get the conversation rolling, the more that people start thinking, the more that people start deprogram, because it's just it's a lot of people that were over there on that platform right now that in the last chat that I was in, that was the day that Dr. Mayat and oh, I didn't mean to say that, but the sisters were on there, and they were, well, we've proven and debunked that the out of Africa theory is real, so I said, okay. So I started hitting them with some questions, and and the questions were tangling them up every time, and to the point where a lot of the people in the chat was like, I'm with the out of Africa. Or I'm with Dane Calloway. I saw the whole conversation. A lot of these people who I know every bit of was like, the so-called Black power, they started changing their stance. And that's what we want to do. We want to get people to think. We want to get people to, and not just on YouTube. I mean, I do it in my own community. Every time I go somewhere and I'm sitting down and I'm talking to a copper tone person, I'm like, where are you from? Like my grandparents used to do. Where you from? Oh, okay. Well, those people like Choctaw. Your grandmother told you Choctaw, and then you go into it. We're not African, right? And just like on your street, hit your block. If you speak to the people, you come outside every day and you speak to your neighbors and stuff like that. Tell your neighbors. That's how we. Like we're starting a conversation. That's how we're getting the conversation pumping. That's how we're getting people to think. And then before you know it. Just like before we knew it on YouTube, it was a big thing. It was a big conversation. It's so big now that everywhere you look, we got Angel, we got we got so-called News 102. We got a lot of these other little pro so-called Black channels stepping to us every day. They're feeling threatened, so we're doing a good job. We just need everybody to do it, everybody to step up, and then we need to start organizing on how to take it to the next level. And the next level is use their system worked. So we just take
if what they're doing is truthful, they certainly shouldn't be feeling any threat from anything that we got going on. This isn't for everybody. Some of them have it in their mind. Maybe they haven't been able to prove it document-wise that they African. Let them stay there. That's fine. It's not my job to convince anybody of who their grandmother is, especially if I don't know them and I haven't met them. It's not my job. It's not my place. I am not here to recruit a whole bunch of Aborigines. I am here to make people remember their grandmother. Whether she African or she Indian, it's all going to work out in the long run for all of us, because this way everybody's in their perspective lane and everybody will know exactly what their job is to do for their people.
Let me say this as well, right? Because even when the sister said whether they're African or they're Indians, we didn't beef or war with the entire region of Africa, right? We got along with some tribes, or if we want to put nations over there. We have to go back down into the history and to see where or who caused the divide amongst us to where we had stopped doing on peaceful business with each other.
Moors.
You understand? Mm-hmm. And when we go back into that and we dig into that, we see where the divide came from, where the corruption came from, or where the identity theft came from, and all this whole let's colonize this and colonize that came from. We have to dig back on both sides of the coin, let's say, to find out the origin of the material, of where the material came from to even create that coin, right? So we have to dig on both sides. We have to understand both sides of the coin, because one side of the coin got a bird, the other side of the coin has a head. What does that bird represent? What does that head represent on each side of the coin? God damn it, even the ponytail that the man wears on the coin. Why is he wearing that ponytail? Why is this Caucasian even wearing that ponytail, which is really a braid, right? Which people braid their hair, right? Indigenous people braid, or what we call copper colored, or what we will call melanated people, pretty much all over the world then braid their hair, right? So we all have a common ground and a common goal, but where did the divide come from? We're not going to talk about geographical, like with the waters and stuff. what fraction of people created the divide so that we stop doing business peacefully along with each other to where we can't even island hop no more to how we even used to island hop, and what is their agenda? What do they look to even gain from this? This is where we have to start going back down into the history. You know what I mean? And it's a lot. And when we drop this thing also on what they call Black Wall Street and the Garvey effect, a lot of folks is going to be upset. Go ahead,
Yo,
brother.
I was like add to that too, man.
Yeah,
it was funny though. I hate to keep going back to Professor James Smalls, but in that interview, he said that, man, Africans, like, just a matter of fact, used to come to America for vacation. He actually said that out of his mouth, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, so they're up here telling us, acting like we don't know how to understand the words that we're speaking and what we're talking about, and they're talking about Euro Americans and Asiatics and all this other stuff. He said they came here and met Asiatics. Professor Smalls, what are you talking about? You know these are all socially constructed words that did not exist, brother. You know that no people came across, no Asiatic, no Mongoloids came across the Bering Strait, brother. These are lies that they are trying to write themselves in history based off of fish and the sun and the fucking ice. Don't believe that shit. That shit is Ice Age, like y'all seen that cartoon, Ice Age. That's what that is. These motherfuckers are lying about everything, and I just assume that everything they say is a lie. And I'm comfortable. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And usually, I'm right.
Yeah.
How about that? How about that? I really don't. And listen. If you still dumb at this point in life, you still dumb. And all the stuff that we showed you, and all the documentation, and all the things we have that you don't have. You got roots. You got Kunta, and you have the nerve. You niggas got the nerve to even act like y'all scholars. That's why I would not debate you anymore, because you guys aren't qualified to debate us. The shit y'all talking about, the shit that's not, it's not even real. It's not, you can't even make the shit up that these guys say. I'm like, yo, did he just say that? He's a scholar. He's a scholar though. He just called us Africans. He said the whole world. He said Malcolm. There's another thing he said. This nigga said, I'm sorry. He said that Malcolm was joking when he said we was Aborigines. He said that he was relating that to the original man, and the original man is African. No, it's not, and there's no paperwork that you can prove that.
Narrative.
God damn. That's what they did. They twist the narrative. Absolutely. We'll go.
They,
that's why you just go back. You always go back to the Malcolm audio, because he clearly said what he meant. He didn't say the African. He said we are Aborigines, but you don't like to call yourselves Aborigines. The man that explained what he meant, he never mentioned nothing about Africa. When the man went over there to Africa, he went and he learned the truth that those people over there don't call us Africans. And he came back over here and his ideology started changing. And you know another reason why they got rid of the man? Because all that Allah Islam talk, once you start learning this knowledge, this information, what starts happening is the trickle-down effect. You stop using all those terms, those words, Allah. You stop talking about Islam and peace be on
wake up.
You wake up. So him, and even down to even Khalid, right? Because folks like to take the clip of Khalid to I'm a Moor. I know I'm a Moor. Have you seen Khalid in a Fez? Until you show me Khalid in a Fez, and you don't know what you're talking about, because the term Moor also is used as a term just to say dark-skinned people. So it's many different ways how they use that word. Do you understand? And even the best of some of our teachers are also still we're all students. We're still students, still learning, because they spent so many years of their lives learning a lie about Islam, this and that, and all sorts of stuff, that when they started coming into the information of the Aborigine, is something new to them. So they too was also open to be victims of folks feeding them a bag of bull. The thing with Brother Malcolm was he was coming into his full form also as well. So when he says Aborigine, he wasn't talking about the African. When Martin said that we are exiled on our own land, he wasn't talking about the African. You understand? So folks, and then again, I don't know how many times even Sister Phoenix had to tell folks, yo, read the Civil Rights Act. Read what it says. It's not talking about black people. It's talking about Indians.
What do you think the brother talked earlier about he's tired of the population being dumb. When the brothers you pulled up, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, when they left the planet, they were 39 years old. So as evolving in people, when you see that people are in their 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, still on this African trip, as young people, what do you think about that?
Cognitive dissonance.
I think this. I think either A, they've been new and they just sellouts, plain. I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I think they just sellouts, they've been new, or they're folks who are just straight submitted into what's going on. And then you got those who are just straight using, again, because the whole Afrocentric identity ain't nothing but a money maker. And because they've spent so many years trying to teach us that we are Africans, they turned it into an industry, a corporate industry, and we don't even realize that. We got your African dolls, your African scarves, your African essential oils, your shea butter type African this and that. And the materials that make a lot of those things came from the Americas. Right?
Yeah, I read and saw a documentary of a European that specifically that, you know, the industry spends billions of dollars trying to convince us that we're not Africans. So they're spending billions of dollars. And when you look around, yes, they're spending billions of dollars to try to convince us that we're African. So like that we're Africans.
What do you do? See, again, we are the sleeping giant. We are the titans. We are these forces and entities that they've always came up against, that kept defeating them throughout the existence of time, right? Because since the existence of time, you always had good and evil, let's say, right? And because we always had good and evil, every time the evil ones will feel like they're going to rise up and they come here, they get their ass handed to them. Every time they rise up over there, and our brothers that we had peace with over there was sent for help, and we went over there, they got their ass handed to them. Now what happened? The giants fell asleep, right? The giants let their guards down, and when the giants let their guards down, the evil entity swooped in, and they spent their billions of dollars a year of the Rothschilds' money, right? It's Rothschilds' money. If the Rothschilds say, "F you can't use my paper currency," you can't use it because it's theirs. They made it, right? But they spend billions of dollars a year to keep the giants still sleeping. And what better way to keep a giant sleeping than recruit the giant's children into the fold at a very young age and convince the giant's children that you are this. So now when the giant's children come across, when the giant awakens and still trying to convince his child, hey, you are not that, you're busy fighting each other.
Yep, and the giant's children that sold in and sold out don't even know that. It's just like with the house, what is it? What's that movie Django? I forgot the dude's name, Samuel L. Jackson, but he was the first to go.
Yes, and rightfully so too.
He was the first to go. They're always the first to go, but they don't realize this. They don't realize that, you know, they think that they're getting the upper hand, they think that they're safe, but at the end, they're no different from anybody else.
Mm-hmm. So as people trying to move away from that narrative, as people that's trying to, you know, look at life a different way, because, you know, we're talking about stuff, but we're still talking about it in the realm of that system.
Right.
We're helping these people build their empire, because that's what it is to me. All we're doing is helping foreigners build their empire on our land.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. So what do you think is the best way to change that narrative?
Like, let me give you an example right now, right? We got a brother in the chat, that's Charles Westbrook. He said, Malcolm mentioned in some of his most famous speeches our connection to Africa and the rest of the world. Malcolm could have did 10 million speeches. That little part that he mentioned that you are Aborigines, but we don't like to call ourselves Aborigines, said a lot. And he definitely told you who you are. And if we do our due diligence to look up the definition of Aborigines, and we go back even down to the 1700s of what Aborigines mean, we'll see that he's talking about Americans, not Africans, and not the rest of the world. He's speaking about strictly us here. And until we understand these things and what some of these words mean and how powerful some of these words are, when a person of his stature mentioned Aborigines even once, you see that state senator that mentioned Aborigines once? And because the people were so ignorant to who they were, they made him apologize.
That I couldn't believe that shit, man.
But they didn't know though. What we gotta realize is they didn't know. They had been sold into the fact. These were educated people who had been sold into the fact that they were African. They were proud Africans.
Wait, hold on. Let me. So again, this plays back into them building their empires here on our land. It is even all right. They didn't know, but the man of that stature still made a statement. What would it have hurt to go and look into what Aborigines mean, right? What would it have hurt to go look into the history of that word to see what it meant before you went back and made a man apologize for calling you something? It didn't call them niggas. It didn't say niggers. It didn't say Negroes. It didn't say Sambos, Gambos, Coons, nothing like that. He said Aborigines, right? So then now you should have said, what does he mean by that? It doesn't mean to get instantaneously upset. Oh, look, we African. No, ignorance is no excuse no more. No more. And this is how these folks are building their empires on our land because of, again, also the ignorance of our people. And until we start really looking into certain things that we are supposed to be looking into, they will continue to use us to build their empires. The Chinese went to Jamaica. They went to go build a highway. They used the folks in Jamaica to build a highway. The Chinese want to build a national garden. They're in Jamaica. They're using the folks of Jamaica to build a garden. And then they named the highway the Beijing Highway. So we know when you name something after yourself, you are staking claim and ownership to it. That means that's colonization. But they don't see that because they want to be ignorant to what they think is facts that they're Africans. Now, I don't know nowhere in the world where you're going to have 20 Caucasians probably, right? And we're just playing with numbers on an island and 300,000 to 400,000 Negroes and think they're going to let these 20 Caucasians take them as slaves and say, well, we took these 300,000, us 20 here took these 300,000 all the way from Africa and sailed a good 3 months with limited food supply and fresh water to the Caribs to turn you as slaves here on this island. And we slaughtered all, you know how much work that is? All the real indigenous inhabitants, again, it's ignorance of our people.
Yeah, well, and then even like when you look at religion, okay, we got, Aboriginal people as well as people from the Asiatic continent that believe that some sky daddy is coming down to save them. Let's Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, like this activist and politician from Mississippi, Henry Kirksey, once said, he said the most educated are the most susceptible to appeasement. And that is so true because look at what they teach you in school. And then, we're not like a lot of people go on to get their doctorate and they don't realize that doctorate really should mean the dummerate, the dummerest. The dummerest. It's like the more indoctrinated you get, the more, the more you're being told what to think, the more you're being programmed. MK Mind Control Ultra, that, so, like, and I know I've been through that. I've been through that, but luckily, I just say luckily, I was the type that questioned everything. They questioned everything. So, I had a lot of problems, because of the simple fact that, there was, I didn't understand a lot of things because I used common sense. And see, people have gotten away from, we're into book knowledge. Everybody's referring to some book instead of getting back to common knowledge, common sense. Exactly. Common sense. Just like I talked to a sister the other day that knows history left and right, but she was still and knows that we're Indians or knows that we're Aboriginal Americans. Yet, and her third great grandfather was a chief of the Choctaws, Sam Cobb. but she still refers to us as Africans. And I had the hardest, she was getting some of where I was coming from, but I was having the hardest time in that short conversation trying to point out and make her see, make her see that, we're not African. Like even when we go, we're not African. We're not the same haplogroup. They admitted that Louisa did not have the same haplogroup. They used Negroid only for description, but they said that she was an Australoid, an Aborigine. Okay, so she's distinctively, they made her distinctively different from the African, the Negroid or the Asiatic. So so like we're different, and see that's what they keep selling us on. And then a lot of times they're selling people on the fact of this. Okay, now, okay, like let's use this is why they've been questioning. I'm just using this as an example. Like for instance, lately, we've been saying a lot. Europe is in Africa. Europeans are African. So that for all of these pro-black people talking about let's separate from tidy, um, like that hit them to heart. So they went back and asked their masters or their master teachers, so-called master teachers. And so I guess so many of them were going back to ask them, so they had to bring it to the forefront. So in their thing, the Almond Squad, they were the ones who, brought it forward, and they used the evolution theory. And basically they were saying that, that the Europeans came from African. Everybody came from Africa. So the Europeans came from the Africans. Okay, so then they was like, so are Europeans African? And they was like, no. And they like, why? Because they moved out of Africa. Okay, well, under your presumption of your out of Africa theory, if the Europeans are not African because they're moved out of Africa, then even if you do believe, in which I don't subscribe to that, in the out of Africa theory, we're not in Africa. So we're no longer, why are we still considered Africans? So basically, it's the like we got to get these people to like everything that they, we got to get them to think we're not Africans. We got to show them that we're not Africans. We're not Africans because that has been stamped. Roots, 12 years a slave through Jane. What's her name? Jane Pickett or Jane Pittman. It's just been like, it's been just pushed on us. It's still pushed on Kwanzaa. It's still pushed on us. So we got to it's been pushed on us to the point where it's like,
it's only a push out because it's allowed to be. That stuff doesn't come to my television. You understand? So that's not going on in my house. That's not something my nieces and nephews are going to hear when they're in my care. All of that stuff is voluntary. All of that stuff is controllable.
That's right.
I can control these conversations. I don't need to spend a moment internalizing what they did, what they doing. It's what has already been done. They cannot kill me twice.
Exactly.
And so you know what? And again, it's not going to be a matter of having to convince people who they are without knowing their grandmother. I'm not going to have no conversation with people. Just keep telling people that, it's like an Israelite. Do you know we all Israelites? No, the fuck I'm not. You can't just tell people, do you know that we the Indians? I don't know where their fucking grandmother could be from Timbuktu.
Yep.
It's not fair for me to push that as a doctrine when I could just simply keep it regular and tell them, go back to your grandma. It doesn't matter. You stick to your roots. And this way, and everybody else knows this. So once you say something like that to a real foreigner, they already know you know. But the conversation will be different when you're talking to your American and they can't prove that they ass is foreign from nowhere. No matter how much they think it, you'll always be able to bring them back to grandma.
Exactly. And, speaking of even the Amon-Ra squad, all right, look. These are the same folks that was telling you that Africans came from big hairy beasts. Remember when Ankh and them said that? And now when you hear one or two of them even come on even the Vortex show, you find out that their heritage is actually African. So how our story is, we have Africans trying to take our identity, and here you have an African telling you you're African. You see where we got to start, where we got to cut the foolishness off right there at the throat. You got to cut it off right there. Once that person admits that they are that, ooh, you can't come in my community no more and say nothing, because our beef is with you or the ones within your community that has corrupted your community. Not coming over here corrupting my community, trying to take what I have. So now you're trying to teach me that I'm you, because you know that your daddy African and your mama African.
Right.
I know that my mama is American Aborigine. My daddy's an American Aborigine, but you're trying to convince me that my daddy is not what he is, my mother is not what she is, but I'm supposed to fall underneath the order of your mother and your father? That's bullshit. And trying to hear nothing from them. Now they say that everything came from the African man and woman, and now they're telling the same folks that follow them, right, through dumbass Reggie, that they came from monkeys, gorillas. And dumbass in Raw Squad, because they said that we came from big, that we, right? They sort of generalize all of us. We came from big, hairy beasts. And folks really listen to these fools.
So they're teaching their children that they're monkeys and slaves.
Exactly.
Monkeys and slaves. Hell no. Hey,
So,
are we sharing
when we
any pictures?
look at it in reality, you'll see that Europe, Africa, and Asia, they all share the same landmass.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same people.
Yep.
And so it's like over here, this is on the other side of the world. It's like the young lady said earlier about the Bering Strait story. They always tell you a story like you're not going to go back and say, okay, what trail did these people leave once they got there? There is no trail. It's the same story when these guys say they found some Egyptian stuff in the Grand Canyon. Well, where did they go before they just got to the Grand Canyon? Did they magically appear in the Grand Canyon? So when you say make people think, these are the kind of questions you have to ask them. Ask them to explain how is this happening, and immediately you will see that they lying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what all of these stories they told. I know brothers and sisters who trying to be Greek, and I asked them, well, while you're being Greek, who's being you? And it makes so that's why I say just cut to the chase, because you guys are right. Stop fucking around. Cut to the chase. Who are you and why are you here? And the average African American, they so busy playing around mentally, they don't even think about it. And that's why Malcolm X that's why Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. I don't look at people for what I just look at people to gauge their, what they did and what impact they made. Them brothers were taken from us at the age of 39.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and they
young.
were every Khalid, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King were all on the Aboriginal tip.
Right. Those brothers got taken from us when they were 39 years old. That's young. Could you imagine if they were still, if they would have died naturally?
We would be free.
Right.
We're just volunteering for the bullshit.
Well, right.
I don't know about the free part, but yeah, no, I mean, but it goes back to Professor James Smalls. He took over after Malcolm. He could have took the work of, to the next level. He could have changed the whole scope of right then and there on that couch with Jabarium and said, you know what, y'all, yeah, man, I'm a double down on what I said the other night on the other interview. And yeah, we are Aboriginal to this land. Blah blah blah. Let's don't play with these words. Don't double talk. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to it, right? So I think that if he would have did that and he would have educated Jabarium on it in the audience, that video would have never got out. See where I'm going with this?
Let me say this about James Smalls, right? Since he took over after Malcolm. Now, we ain't going to sugarcoat it. We know all of our past leaders were damn near oath takers. Malcolm and Martin violated the oath, so they took them out. James Smalls and them saw that, and they stuck with the oath because they put their life and everything else first. But then at the meantime, they also capitalized on it financially later on throughout the years. Hence, this is why he has this hotel or / resort out there in Ghana, right? The same people that says that, you know, again, they don't know about no damn slave trade over there, you know, for the most part. They don't, because it didn't happen, you know what I mean? So he knows his information. Now we're not in the age where we things is it's like back with when they took out Malcolm or Martin or whatever. We're in now of a social media environment to where folks could go Google something, run down to wherever, you know, hot zone or hot spot and pull something up, right? So he could have also now been came out. It shouldn't have to take us, because I really and strongly believe that it's us here on this panel and others like us that, because we stuck to our gun on who we are, that put pressure on that community for them to start buckling the way how they're buckling now. That's why they always show your friction, and they're trying everything because they turned it into a financial gaining thing, and it's taking money out their pockets.
Facts. Pat yourselves on the back.
So, you know, James Smalls, he had a reason, but then after the years passed, there was no reason no more. You could have been came out now and told us the truth instead of sticking to the lie. It shouldn't have to have felt pressure because folks started calling your name in their videos and stuff to link you with the scamming even going on in the pro-black community, right? Because his name was being called upon, people just didn't pay attention. So he came out and try to give the Aborigine story and still try to sell us an African thing, even though his daddy took him to the mountains. So,
yo, these guys act like they don't know about the work of the immortal Steve Coakley. They act like they don't know about the Boule and the gatekeepers and things like that. And it was interesting. You said Reggie, he you know, when him had a bureau one time, and that was exposed in that conversation. And he's so crazy, he would let that type of information get out. You know what I'm saying?
And now I've been exposing the fact that they have new American Colonization Society members, and they have new gatekeepers, and they have new Boule. And a lot of times I let them know that they are the Boule. They are the new American Colonization Society. And they are, the gatekeepers. And and that's just the way. Well, wait a minute. So people can say, okay, well, wait a minute, because they say coons, but they don't realize that I know that word is derogatory, but I'm saying they say coons, but they don't realize that the people who taught you to say coons are the coons themselves.
All that. Oh, go ahead.
I'm finished.
All that. Even the word coon came from the what they call the raccoon tribe, which was here in the Americas.
Right.
They even I'm guilty of even using that word out of context sometimes, and that's something that I also got to start disciplining myself to stop using, because now that I've learned where that word came from, there was literally a tribe here called the raccoon tribe, and this is also why you see a lot of, again, these inner circle societies, but they're not even a secret. They're in our face.
Mm-hmm.
The best kept secret is to put it in your face, so it's not even a secret, right? So we have these inner societies that what they'll do is they'll take the names or certain things that we used to identify as, and they'll name their lodges off of it. You understand? Mm-hmm. Like the elk, the beaver, badger, right? They named them. These are the names of some of their lodges.
The pyramid.
Yep, and this is off of our totem animals that we put up, right? So they throw it in our face, man. They throw it. They know their job is to play like
really, we're gonna, like the sister was saying earlier, we're gonna have to have alternatives. I think one of the alternatives we should have, and brother, you just brought this up when you were saying they name their lodges after the animals and stuff of America, is that a boys club, a boy scout or something like that, and a girls club or something for our youth, but it's indigenous, and teaching them about the land and stuff and who they are and stuff. I think that would be very valuable for the community.
I talked about that with my neighbor, because I'm from Mississippi, and my neighbor, well, actually he's my cousin, but he was saying that he was the last of the people who know how to like kill, go out and kill hogs. Not to say that we should eat them, but I'm just talking about the nature. Go out and kill hogs from scratch. Go out and plant a garden. Plant fields, because we didn't have gardens. We had fields, plant fields, grow, and just, work off the land. And so, I talked to him about doing a camp. Doing a camp, teaching, the youth how to ride horses again, simple things like that, teaching, going back to put our hands back in the dirt, because that's where our people learned. Our Aboriginal ancestors learned everything from nature. Everything that they learned, that's where the feathers come up, because the eagle flies the highest. Everything came from nature. So we have to and our new inventions in terms of yes, we're going to have to start our own commerce. We're going to have to start, we're going to have to, but the best thing to do is to start it from scratch. And that's not anything that's impossible, because of the simple fact that we just got to go back to learning our sacred sciences, our sacred geometries, our sacred maths. We have to go back to learning the plants and what the plants do. And then we can create again, because most of the inventions and creations came from us in the first place. And if you look around and look back to the past 30 years or so, nothing new has really been invented. Only thing they've been doing is adding a different button to something that we've already invented. So, we have to get back to, and I just found out, even let me tell you the trick that they played with us. Because my grandmother told me the other day that, straightening combs have been in use for a long time. Straightening combs are ancient. But this one lady, what was her name? Somebody convinced this one lady to patent it. And that wasn't hers to patent.
Yep.
The straightening comb, we have been using straightening combs for a long time. The straightening comb wasn't new. Our ancient ancestors have been using straightening combs.
We even back home, we had the straightening combs that we usually even made out of copper or some form of metal as well, that our females will use even back home also. You know what I mean? So and let me tell y'all the trick behind that too. Some of these pictures that they show with Aborigines with straight hair and say that they're mixed, it's not that they're mixed. And my mother is a licensed cosmetologist, and I can tell you straight up that it's a pressed hair. That it's a woman with thick curly hair. They use a straightening comb to press her hair out.
Thanks.
So, but when you look at even the edges coming around the hairline, also as well. All right, and then you look underneath the top layer of the hair, and you can see that it's a sister, straight full-blooded.
Right. And see, we think it's straight. Oh, I got Indian hair. No, we got the same kind of hair we've always had with different variations. Some are a little bit more curly. Because if you go back and look at the pictures of the Aborigines, you're gonna see that their hair might be a little curlier or whatever than ours. And in some cases, some are kinky. But but I tell you one thing: our hair is distinctively different from Asiatics or Africans, because their hair tightens up. You've never seen them with an afro, and I've never seen them really with dreads. I don't think their hair has the capability of really doing that unless they're them little small ones.
No, they put yarn. They put yarn in their hair when they want to make it look like it's dreads.
Oh shit!
And then when the hair gets all nappy, the texture is not the same still. Even if they lock it, it's not something that can stay locked. They have to put yarn in it to give it the textured look like ours when it's locked. That's the trick.
But we have to go back to that. There's plenty things that is untapped and undiscovered. I mean, there's plenty, we think too small. Like the way that they tamper with our brains and tamper with our natural minds, we think too small. So we got to go back to thinking that we've done it before and we can do it again. And we got to whatever you do, whether if you're a plant, you like plants, sit there and figure out like aloe vera, that's good for this and good for that. Create to find out the different things that you could create with aloe vera. Find out different things that you might be able to create from just the land, just the land, from the dirt, from the barks on the trees, from whatever, let's get back to that ingenuity, that type of mind where because we were advanced. We had irrigation systems and we had all kinds of stuff in our ancient civilizations. We weren't I mean, you know, we weren't living like, you know, a lot of people think that we were. We had things, you know, we had a lot of things. And so, you know, we need to get back. We need to get back to that. And then from there, we're going to build our civilization. We're going to build our economics, because we're going to have stuff that they don't have. And they don't even have the capability, and they don't even know how to begin. And this time we know better. This time we know not to tell them or sell them our secrets.
In order to do all of that, and in order to do all that, and this is where the reality comes in, and this can't just be no all talk, because to do all that, you're going to need to get your land back, and that's why we have to, all these different groups. That's why it's futile, because those groups are always going to be fighting amongst each other. There's about there's probably 100. I will say that at least 100 different indigenous groups pretending that they're foreigners.
Facts.
That's a fact.
Imagine what that does to the people. Imagine what that does. So we're going to have to be reality. This is not no fairy tale, no pie in the sky, no dream type shit. The reality is the people who are called African American are being wiped out of these cities.
Yep.
Now you can pretend like you don't see it, but like what you say, we don't say nothing. That means we give up. That means it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we're having. So we're coming to the end of the hour. So I wanted to give everybody, all the guests, a chance. I just want to ask a question, and I would like the guests to answer the question and ponder the question. How do we stave off what we see coming our way? And ma'am, I'll go with you first.
Me?
What is your name?
BCFC. That's BCFC, or Black Conscious Fraud Committee.
BCFC. I like that better. I like that better. Okay, BCFC.
It's easy.
Okay.
Well, you know, like I've said, you know, like and I'm still meditating, and I'm still trying to come up with strategies and stuff like that too, and I think about this stuff every day. And so far what I've come up with, you know, I basically said, you know, like, you know, they're using the brainwashing of us, and that, you know, like, you know, we have to, you know, go back and, you know, unbrainwash some of our people. You know, I know you're not gonna do it completely, but, you know, you just throw things out there, you know, to wake our people up, you know. And also, you know, also, like, we have to, the ones of us who are, you know, like, who do know who we are, and, you know, do know what's in front of us and stuff like that, you know, we're sort of going to have to step up to the plate and start organizing. You know, just like you said, there's 100 African American groups out there. There's at least 100 Aboriginal groups out here too, you know, on different levels. You got the Freedmen's, you got the you have the Freedmen's Bureau, you have a lot of people registered into the tribes, you have like Indigenous Peoples United, you know, like, we have to, like, look into some of those people and network. And you know, and form a network where we're branched out, spread out. And even though we keep our own individual, like, they'll stay their own organization, or whoever has their own individual organizations can keep their own individual organizations. And, you know, we might meet, you know, 2 or 3 times out the year or whatever, and figure out new strategies and new plans to move us forward. And, you know, and that's like my answer.
Well, cool. Well, listen, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight, because all I'm trying to do is get some intelligent thought going on, some higher level things, not just talking, but what do we do? What do we do in the meantime? We're seeing, I mean, the things I've been hearing and going through these cities have been just crazy. So it's cool to get the feedback or the vibe of what the young people are saying. And I really appreciate you giving us some time tonight.
Yes. No problem. It's been a pleasure, brother, being on your panel, and you know, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, brother, you were saying, Dark Man.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, you know, and you're trying to come up with, you're asking basically what's the solution, what's the start, you know, to alleviate some of this genocide or some of this assimilation, you know. So when you say what we do, you're referring to we on the panel, hosting the panel, you're referring to Aborigines out there viewing, you know.
I recognize that we here on the panel, we're putting out information to let people know that you're not some foreigner across the water. And I'm figuring that once they realize that they're connected to they're connected here to America, they'll look at themselves in a different way.
Yeah, that's true. But also you got to take into consideration that most of these people, they're not knowledgeable. They don't possess half of the knowledge or have half of the information that we have. So they're looking for someone to basically save them, you know, or represent them, you know.
Okay, people who normally look for some other to save them normally get wiped out. That's what history has taught me. So I'm
Ain't
talking
that the truth?
So I'm talking about, in order for that to happen, what should our youth know?
Here's what the youth must know, right? The first thing is the youth must know how to identify friend from foe, right? Within our community, before the youth could even look outwards out of the community, because usually the foe within the community connects to the foe outside of the community that's trying to push even gentrification within our community, right? So the youth must learn and know how to identify friend from foe. The youth must know also that their genealogy, their ancestry, and what shows and proves of who we are, and why throughout history certain terms that we were once called, we are not called that no more, and why that leads to us being called Black and African American. And why is it that they made sure that they try to force or try to brainwash us into accepting those terms, right? The youth must know these things, because if you don't know yourself, then you don't know the playing field that you are really on, and how big it is, and to how many pawns and chess pieces are really on the board if you're just coming in and playing blindfolded, right? So we as even this generation looking to educate the upcoming generation. Right now, we have to also teach the youth ways of how to identify in these things, how to identify the divide and conquer also tactic that is played upon our people through different means of psychological warfare, also through the education system. You know, these are things that we have to start doing, and we got to start with the youth. They're starting with our youth. We have to start with our youth. You understand? We can't penetrate too much on grown folks who, that when you sit them down and you still show them thousands of documentations, they still come and say, well, so show me the proof. Like people like Everybody Hates Angel and the Cynthia G's and them. We can't focus on them like that. We got to focus on our children. And when I say our children, because you know what? My daughter is your daughter. My son is your son, because we're Aborigines and we're fighting for this cause.
Facts.
You understand? So when you're educating your child on the truth, I'd expect you to educate my child the same way. If I'm educating your child on the truth, you should expect me to educate your child the same way. If I'm educating my child on the truth, not just keep my child here and secretly educate my child, and then tell my child, well, you know what? Now we got to put a spin on this and have these folks identify as so and so, like Moors and stuff like that, right? So we have to start teaching our youth how to identify, again, friend from foe within our community. And then the next
That's
thing, we
right.
have to start teaching them how to build and unite with friends and trust. We
That's
have
right.
to start trusting.
That's right. And you know, a lot of our children have seen a lot of us not be kind to each other. So, you know, they don't have the same social skills that we were raised into. But, you know, I'm not going to make this a long, dragged out situation. But I'm going to say, going forward, both the children and the adults need to make this learning experience interactive. So this way it doesn't seem too awkward, and everybody's familiar with the information. So where one leaves off, the other one's going to pick up. You know, adults are still very busy, and it's still going to be difficult for them to be able to. It's going to be difficult for them to be able to manage a lot of studies and stuff like that. But the information is available. The first suggestion that I make, the starter kit, needs to be what your civil rights are. So anytime you bump into these cockamamie lawyers or these bullshit agents and you tell them that you have a problem with discrimination or some sort of bias or prejudice or things of that nature, and you go under the term of being called black, and that lawyer doesn't correct you on that term and he calls himself a civil rights attorney, I suggest y'all save y'all money and turn your ass right back around and leave that office, because he's not a civil rights attorney. And if he tells you that he is and he defends you as a black person, you can guarantee your ass gonna lose.
Yup.
So if you like losing, then, you know, stay lost in the source and let everybody tell you who you are. If you want some things to change, you want your conditions to be a little different, you might want to go check back in with grandma.
Mhm.
That's it. Thank you very much, Carrie, for having us here too. This is wonderful.
And sue that lawyer too.
I really appreciate you guys' time, but I want to hear from Chief Holiday before we get out of here. Brother, are you still there?
I don't think
Chief Holiday.
Oh,
I think
okay.
he just
Yeah.
fell off. I think he'll be back.
he's not there.
Well, again, look, this is African American Ain't African Radio. So basically what we're trying to do is just to show the people that are walking around here that everybody is shitting upon, that this is you're at home. This is your homeland. This is the inheritance that your forebears left you. Now, are we going to act like renters or are we going to act like owners? Check
Exactly.
what is next time.
All right. Thank you for